Hey guys, weekend energy update, and we got a lot to talk about this weekend. We, of course, are in an energetic environment right now that is characterized by some extreme both tension and contention. Things definitely coming to a head. There could be a lot of clashes going on out there. This is likely to honestly be quite an eruptive, conflict-ridden period of time. I'm definitely sort of issuing a bit of a red flag warning for this weekend, and actually the energy that is building into the next 10 days or so, even perhaps carrying us through the end of the month of August. The heat is turned all the way up. The rubber band is pulled like all the way back. Things are at sort of their breaking point right now energetically, which is going to lead to some very transitional energy coming up here, moving into our next new moon, our new moon in Virgo cycle that will be coming up in September. And things may be primed to hit the fan a little bit right now, you guys. I definitely think that we should all kind of proceed with caution this weekend. It is a good time, to maybe step back, not follow the crowd, be a bit more self-disciplined and self-controlled in our actions and reactions and our thoughts and choice of words and decisions when it comes to stuff right now. And just realize that, again, like the heat is sort of turned all the way up. People are going to be having a real hard time coping with things. A lot of people are going to be projecting, and it is a very delicate, energetic situation that we've got going on out there, and we should act accordingly. There are a lot of really positive potentials interwoven in everything that is playing out right now as well, and ultimately at the end of the day, this period of time will have been very significant in a transitional process that is underway that is actually taking us to a better place, making us stronger, more prepared, and more able to direct the course of our future in terms of what's coming next. But things are just maybe being brought to a bit of a boiling point in the energy of this weekend, and definitely heading into next week, where we will have our full moon in Aquarius that features two exact real powerful squares. And again, this is going to be sort of like the maximum peak tension energy in terms of even what we've been dealing with up till this point. So there's a lot going on, you guys, and I'm here to talk all about it. Let's get into our report of the weekend. Let's look at all of the pieces of the puzzle, how they're coming together, fitting together, what things might be looking like for us, the story that energy might be telling us as we move through the weekend and towards the full moon in Aquarius on Monday. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Friday, August 16th, 2024. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the weekend, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. And this weekend, we are really in it. Like I've said, the heat is really turned all the way up. We are in the process of a Mars-Jupiter conjunction right now. That is an energetic climax that hits only every 2 years. We're in that energy. However, it is being hit by this counterforce of Saturn, an exact square in the sign of Pisces right now. So inherently, kind of like in all things, or just in the energetic field generally right now, there is a major force of resistance and interference to that which seeks to expand. All right. And especially if it's seeking to expand in a very rapid or energized way, the faster and the more energized and the more motivated that it is to grow and to expand, the greater amount of resistance it's likely to face at this time. And again, that is because we are in an energetic environment right now that is comprised of a perfect square between Mars and Jupiter in their once in 2 years conjunction in the sign of Gemini, and Saturn retrograding in the sign of Pisces. So this is setting us up right now in terms of tension and contention in some real extreme ways, as I've been describing, as I also described in the last video that I put out. So as a result, I am recommending that we really proceed with caution over the next 10 days or so, if not through the rest of the month, as this energy plays itself out. We are, just in this window of this extreme build and energetic tension that is likely to manifest in explosive or violent ways, because people are experiencing issues with self-control and their ability to contain their passionate responses to things. Mars is our energy levels, it's our action, it's our behavior, it's also our anger, right? Mars is the Lord of War. Jupiter expands things, it supersizes things, it blows things up. On one hand, this is a bit of a neutralizing force in that it is a benefic influence, and Jupiter and Mars together do tend to bring like fortunate events and good luck and stuff like that. So and also like right actions, and we'll talk about it as we get through this report. One of the actual greater archetypal themes that is likely to be emerging now, both microcosm and macrocosm, is this like hero and villain dynamic that is coming up, like literally like the epic battle of dark and light in all times and all ages, you know, the reoccurring archetypal battle that plays out between the hero and the villain, definitely being featured in the context of this square as it's presenting. And as I said, I will talk more about that as we proceed forth in this report as well. But I am recommending that we kind of move through life generally, both like physically, like literally, and in terms of the conclusions that we're jumping to, our reactions to things, like our perceptions of what's happening, in a very like slow and cautious way, and do our very best to maintain as much calmness under perhaps pressure as we possibly can. I'm telling you guys, the way that this is set up, as I was just saying, you know, the more we rush ahead, the more impulsive we are, the more motivated and passionate, and the more that we're like on that Mars vibe, the greater resistance we're likely to come up against, the greater the snapback is sort of like to be. However, to the contrary, right, the more thoroughly and carefully we do things right now, the more likely we are actually to succeed and to gain the benefits associated with Jupiter's placement next to Mars while all of these three planets are in a square, okay? So our efforts are likely to feel quite blocked by circumstance, and this has been a theme that's been going on all month as these planets have been building into this energy. We are in the epicenter of it right now this week, and next week is going to be real intense too, because we've got the full moon that is featuring these same exact dynamics in their perfect exactness, and also an exact square to Uranus and fixed signs from the full moon itself, like exact to the degree. So this is going to be a very, I guess, significant in some way full moon that we're moving into, and there's going to be a lot of unexpected challenges that may present, but also let's not forget, this is also breakthroughs, and this is also evolution. These are also the times and the situations where like we're moving into a new phase of something maybe that we have been working on for a very long time. Things are going through an upgrade process. There's an evolution underway. There's also like a greater conscious awakening underway as kind of like broader collective theme that is associated with whatever is playing out on the more like, you know, mundane, minute level, or even the world stage right now as well. The tension that is building right now and what happens as a result of the forces that are coming to a head at this moment are actually going to produce breakthroughs that lead to some type of conscious recalibration, conscious awakening, spiritual revival, seeing things in a new light, like literally paradigm shifting changes in perspective, okay, that come into place as a result of the things that are playing out now and moving through the rest of August and the rest of the summer and into September, okay? But in the meantime, while we're going through that process, we may feel very blocked by circumstances or by other people or by this internal sense of inadequacy that we like can't seem to get away from, or from some type of lack of understanding or ability to comprehend something or explain something that also has us feeling like limited or restricted or blocked off or held back somehow. You could really feel caught up or trapped in something right now as well. Those are also keywords and themes that would apply in the context of how this energy is playing out, unable to move both backwards and forwards, maybe in a state of like suspended animation, because, you know, there's also a huge dichotomy going on here, and a lot of people are going to be struggling with wrapping their head around like fact versus fiction. A lot of people are really going to get caught up or even like blocked from being able to rationalize things and to like see information clearly, because we're talking about a situation where we have the motivating energy, the mental energy, Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini in a square with Saturn. Saturn brings blockages, Saturn brings restrictions. This is also, I talked about in my last video, indicating a period of time where there could be some type of communication, I mean, literal like internet going down, like communication or information blackouts, like outages and like downed communication lines or ability to communicate and stuff like that. And the same can be applied literally for even like our own internal like way that our mind is functioning. There could literally be blocks to our ability, or to some people's ability, to think clearly or to like be in the right mind as we move through this energy. Like people are probably, a lot of people are going to be losing it, caught in some weird delusion or some fantasy or imagined scenario that they are associating or identifying with as fact, unable to like process things clearly. Right mind. Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. Jupiter is the bigger picture. Jupiter is wisdom. Jupiter is the truth. Jupiter in the sign of Gemini with Mars, there could be anger that, you know, clouds our judgment also in a way that really keeps us from being able to see what is right and what is true and what is actually going on. So again, there's a lot of different dimensions of this energy that can be contributing to the same overall dynamic of people just having a very, very hard time keeping themselves contained. This is also really going to interfere with our ability to, again, like have self-discipline, have self-control, like be able to reel it in. You know, a lot of people are just going to be letting it all go because they're going to also feel like they don't really have much to lose at this period of time. And as we do move forward through the rest of summer and into the month of September, we are going to be maybe losing some things, or at least letting some things go. Okay, so fears of failure and personal inadequacies could really be a primary focus right now that is getting to people as well, that seems to sort of be controlling our mind. That's another thing. Like Saturn is control. Saturn is in the sign of Pisces retrograding. That could on one hand be like a loss of control of what is going on. Like Mars is our action, right? In the sign of Gemini, this is our choices and our decisions with Jupiter there. There could be like, people could be losing their mind and it really causing them to make some very not so good choices or decisions, or take some actions that are quite questionable. Or there could be like this illusion or this distortion that is what is control, or like some weird belief or something with Saturn also in the sign of Pisces, that is the controlling function for our actions and our decisions and our behaviors and what we're saying right now, which could also be causing some of these conflicts or some of these issues. So there's many different ways that this energy could manifest, but it's likely to be something along those lines. And again, like fears of failure, personal inadequacies, being really down on ourselves. Saturn narrows our purview of perspective. Like it really narrows our vision to usually focus on the flaws or focus on like the glass half empty type of stuff. So that could really be like the lens of perception that is controlling our mind. And with Mars is also the self, and Mars is the ego, the way that we're thinking about ourselves, the way that we're feeling about ourselves. People could be feeling very kind of like down and hopeless and discouraged in this energy. But the thing is, with the Pisces energy, it's usually an illusion. It's usually our imagination. It's usually some type of spell or hypnosis. Many of these fears and internalized judgments and criticisms that we're going through that have people in such, well, some people in such like a depressed state right now are going to be imaginary in their nature. And if we can be consciously aware of that, it is definitely going to be in our benefit, as, you know, if we find ourselves coming up against these feelings that are arising within us. I mean, that's one of the challenges with this energy, right? And also one of the lessons that is being presented here is to know and be able to pull out of yourself who you really are and what you're truly capable of, even when these imaginary fears are overwhelming us and seem so real and are such a predominant focus of the way that our mind is oriented and functioning in this energy, right? So there could also be harsh judgments from others right now, specifically maybe authority figures or people in a place of power or something, that are also sort of reinforcing or validating whatever internal issues people are struggling with. So we got to keep that in mind as well. And again, most of this self-perception issue is going to be not as like severe as we feel like it is in the moment. Okay, so if there's constructive criticism, that's the thing, you know, criticism can be constructive, and we can look for the parts and the pieces of it that can truly benefit us. Because again, like, this also comes back to, well, while people are probably being really harsh, really critical, you know, in that aspect of things, this is also a very good time to become more masterful in and of ourselves, to really focus on self-improvement and self-development and personal growth, like I was saying. And we can use other people's criticisms to really, you know, introspect and self-analyze and see if we can benefit and make ourselves better from anything that they have to offer. But what we don't want to do is overly identify with the more, you know, negative criticisms that are not actually improving us in any type of a way, and instead are just contributing to the false interpretation of our like lack of capability or our inadequacy, or, you know, whatever is wrong with us that we might be focusing on in this energy, which is just how this energy has a tendency of functioning. We don't need to like pile on, okay? Like, if there's something that we need to work on, like, okay, we get it, let's just get to work working on it, instead of, you know, allowing ourselves to just spiral down into this depression perhaps that is ultimately like not moving us in the direction that we need to work on or move towards, and, you know, become sort of like our own worst enemy in terms of self-sabotaging our own progress based on these our own internalized issues right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, the lesson here is in the face perhaps of some of that like overwhelming internal angst or whatever is going on, to be able to pull ourselves out of it consciously, to get out of our own head, to move our body, to, you know, take a step in the right direction, even if it's something small, to do something productive, and to just realize that this is just the way the energy is right now. Sometimes it rains, and when it's raining, you might get a little bit wet, but the sun is going to come out and we're going to be okay. And, you know, it's not going to be raining forever, so we shouldn't just define ourselves as a puddle for the rest of our lives. This is a passing phase that we're moving towards, and things are going to open up for us, and whatever we're going through now does not define who we always have been, always will be, and are always, you know, perpetually destined to be, okay? But nevertheless, a lot of people aren't paying attention to the astrology, and therefore a lot of people are going to be just melting down, projecting anger, projecting the need to control, the need to dominate in some probably ruthless or violent or cold-hearted ways. It is what it is. I expect significant clashes also with authority and people generally being on their worst behavior. We've got Mars and Jupiter in a conjunction in an exact square to Saturn. That is the tension turned all the way up. That is the band pulled all the way back. This is happening on Wednesday. This is happening on Thursday. This is happening on Friday this week. And Jupiter begins the exact square to Saturn on Friday as well, while Mars is an exact square to Saturn. And we've also got a Capricorn moon going on, which is ruled by Saturn. So to be honest with you, and Saturn and Jupiter will be in their exact perfect square for one whole week, for 7 days. Actually, it's like 7 moving to like a little, like it might be 8 days. But with in the full moon in Aquarius, when we've got those double squares going on, that is obviously going to be the climax of this energy. But Thursday and Friday this week, or Friday and Saturday this week, the moon is transiting through the sign of Capricorn, which again, like, this is ruled by Saturn. This is setting off the Saturnian energy and even more. And Friday and Saturday may be some of the most contentious days of the 7-day period of the Saturn-Jupiter square, except for, of course, the full moon that we've got going on Monday. So, the tension, like I mean, there's really not that much to say. Like, there's only so many ways that you can say that people are at a snapping point. You know what I mean? Like, that's the energy, that's the vibe, like that's all of the tea from now through the end of August. Like I said, this is hitting on what day it is. Friday, August 16th, the 17th, August 17th. That is when they square off at 17 degrees. That's interesting. But it's a 7-day transit. And like I said, you know, we've been in this with Mars there. That is the most heated part of it. That really is like the most volatile of the energy, because Mars and Saturn, like, they're both in ancient astrology known as the Great Malefics, and their square is one of the most hostile aspects in all of astrology. And with Jupiter there, like I said, Jupiter does neutralize things to some extent because it is a benefic energy, but it also expands and supersizes things, and it's going to be blowing things up. That's what Jupiter does. So honestly, like, it's very, very, very significant astrology that we're in right now. I can't really stress the significance of the times in terms specifically of our personal growth and realigning us on a microcosm and macrocosm level with some true destiny or some higher purpose that is divinely ordained to, like, begin, you know, to start its cycle or to take its hold right now. And it may seem like there is total chaos or total strife going on, but on some level, as I was saying earlier, this is part of a collective awakening and rebirth, really, that is underway, that is going to shift our entire paradigm. These are the circumstances that will bring that shift into fruition, and it will happen in our individual lives. And as a result of that, you know, it will extrapolate out and be just like this very collectivized experience. Mars and Saturn in a square, I talked about this in my last video, and I've been talking about this building up, how this is bringing things to a head in terms of like versions of things, like a younger and an older version, or like a subordinate and an authority figure, like a worker and a boss, or father and son, or like master and apprentice, or like the soldier and the general. Like, these are the archetypal energies that are coming to a head here. Saturn rules the older authority, tradition, control, boss type of energy. And then the Martian energy, this is like the common man. This is the masculine energy. This is the more youthful, like, this is the soldier, as opposed to Saturn being the general. This is like Saturn's the father, Mars is the son. Saturn's the boss, Mars is the employee or the subordinate. Like, that's the dynamic that we are talking about here when we're talking about this clash that is going on. And then also we're talking about the sign of Gemini. This is the youthful, more naive, like childlike energy. And we're talking about the sign of Pisces again. This is the end. This is the last. This is coming to the end of something. And in the context, or in the contest of the square between Mars and Saturn this time around, with Mars being with Jupiter, it is very clearly, and I've been talking about this in my other videos leading up to this one recently, when this energy has been coming into fruition, it's very clearly weighted in terms of victory on the side of the Martian energy, the Martian archetype. The future is winning this battle for sure. The common man, or the human spirit inspired by a righteous anger or a righteous passion, victorious over the evil empires that have been ruling for generations in the past. Like, this is the type of thing, like, this is the story that this specific planetary alignment is telling right now. It is every single archetypal epic tale of the hero conquering the dark overlord that has ever been told and retold and replicated in a million different ways, you know, setting the people or the kingdom free from the reign of suffering and servitude that has been ongoing for long periods of time. Mars and Jupiter are Frodo, okay, and Saturn in the sign of Pisces, that would be the ring. It's literally like that, the way that this energy is playing out. Mars and Jupiter, that's Harry Potter, and Saturn, that would be Voldemort retrograde, trying to come back from the past and regain control over, even though his reign of power is over. You know, like, that's literally the type of thing that we're dealing with here, and that may be actually like various versions of that same thing, tails spinning themselves in our lives in terms of the different characters and situations and stories that are playing out around us in our own personal lives and on the world stage as well. It's the archetypal battle between the hero and the villain vying for dominance and vying for power. And in this particular chapter, it is very evident that the hero saves the day, throws the ring back into the fire, but not before, of course, having to face some of these very like daunting, difficult, major challenges to body, mind, and soul. And that's where we're at. Like, that's what this time of tension and contention represents. The closer that we get to winning the battle, the more difficult everything seems to be. We, you know, like we're actually almost there, but it probably feels like we're never going to make it at this point. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of vibe going on here. The closer we get to victory and realigning with our destiny and our higher selves and like taking back our power and all that, the harder and more fierce the obstacles are that we face in all of their forms. All right. So that is, I feel like, where we're at in our cosmic blueprint as it's unfolding right now, transitioning us into the age of Aquarius. This is a test of our faith, of our character, and of our endurance at this point. And we will keep going because, you know, even if all seems lost, because it's the right thing to do. That's another thing that, another lesson that is really, I feel like, interwoven or enmeshed in all of the experiences playing out right now. It's like testing our ability to do the right thing when no one's watching, like do the right thing when we don't have to, like push ourselves even a little bit harder, even when there's no reward or no one's looking, just because we know that we should, and we know that's what's right for ourselves, and we know that if we do it like out of some commitment or dedication to serving our higher selves, right? But it's interesting because I'm telling you, even though that it may be like a thankless situation that we're in right now, or there might be like no validation or rewards for our efforts, I'm telling you guys, as we move forward, there is going to be some type of delayed gratification, or there is going to be some type of reward for hard work or efforts paying off somehow in a way that maybe we didn't even anticipate or hadn't even asked for, as we were just going through this process of personal growth that is reflected by, you know, those our efforts that I just got done describing. Okay, so it's testing our faith, testing our character. We're going to keep going, and it may require also an elevated level of our ability to surrender and trust in a higher plan, to really like maximize our faith, to really maintain actively the vision, even again if it seems like everything is crumbling and we're never going to make it, or like it's harder than ever. We have to also keep in mind what I always say about this Mars-Saturn energy. While it can be very challenging, at the end of the day, it is master builder energy. This is the energy, Mars and Saturn, that makes all the great masters and all the great masterful works, okay? Tremendous feats of labor can be accomplished now, especially with the benefic presence of Jupiter there, promising long-term success, rewards, and like our slow, careful, patient, calculated efforts paying off significantly in the long run, okay? We are building brick by brick by brick here. It's this slow, grueling, painstaking process, but hard work is going to get us there. We can do it. We will get there in the end, and it will be glorious. I do feel like the battle really is already won, but this is when we're gaining our stripes. Okay, this is when we're leveling up. This is when we are becoming the versions of ourselves who we are eventually destined to be. Like, this is how we get there. There's a level of maturity that is really important right now as well. And it's literally being spoken about by the degree. If you guys watched my last video where Mars and Jupiter came to their once in 2-year alignment. However, this is actually an alignment that hasn't happened since 1989. Talked all about it in my last video. That degree in Gemini, where they aligned, was the head of a robust youth changing into that of a mature thinker. And that is so characteristic of what this energy is really trying to do for us right now. Maturation, wisdom, and self-mastery that we are gaining as a part of what we're going through now are going to be very important, super important to something in the future, or to some future role that we're going to play that has not yet come to pass. So like these steps that we're taking now, even if they're super frustrating or really discouraging or whatever, there is some important thing that we are learning or that we are gaining in terms of who we are meant to become. Okay, we need to push ourselves to be better here and improve in whatever ways that we're personally feeling called. It is about cultivating self-discipline and self-control when we feel perhaps like we've got nothing left to give. The proper use of the will applied to the self and our actions and our behaviors and our choices are like the karmic tests that are going to get us to actually, even though it's counterintuitive and it sounds contradictory, a faster successful outcome than trying to just rush ahead right now. Okay, so this is the like grit your teeth and bear it and do what needs to be done even if you don't like it energy. Doing what's right, as I said, especially if it's not necessarily easy right now. Like, this is where the payoff will come. Getting carried away on some impulse or sudden reaction and then projecting out our own inner turmoil onto others and starting fights for no good reason, that is not what we want to do. That is going to bring the karmic smackdowns, the harsh criticism, lessons, and accountability that are probably not going to be super fun right now and are probably not going to get us to our goal sooner. Okay, so we want to be very, very careful with that. And again, a lot of people are going to be operating in alignment with that particular mode and setting. They're just going to be letting it out. Mars and Jupiter and Gemini, I mean, that's a big mouth, and it can be also very self-righteous. People can be operating under personal delusions of greatness and grandeur, very profound, like narcissistic, like tendencies and stuff could be going on right now. And also be careful with police. This is like prime speeding ticket energy as well, with Jupiter and Mars in the sign of Gemini, like just needing to unleash and move forward and kind of being a bit careless maybe in like your speed that you're driving, coming up against that square with Saturn, which is law enforcement or authority. Be very careful with that. This is just going to bring clashes with law enforcement and authority generally. Most likely we're talking about the common man, right? Mars, the masculine energy, all fired up, coming up against like this authority situation, control, limitation, and that oftentimes can manifest in the context of law enforcement. I do expect intensified breakdowns between sort of like the population and law enforcement or government generally as we move through this period of time, because that is what this energy would be indicating. And stay out of it, you guys. Stay out of it. If you do not directly have skin in the game, if you are not clearly part of some divine mandate that is calling you on a heroic quest forth to, go up against the evil empire right now, stay out of it, because our time and our energy and our resources are so much better spent putting into like, what I keep saying, self-development, self-improvement, making small steps and making small amounts of progress and taking small steps towards what it actually is that we want to build, grow, and bring into the world to better ourselves right now. We do not want to get caught off on some weird tangent of getting caught up in some frenzied behavior, trying to fight for some cause that we're not even necessarily, as I've said, it's kind of tricky because there really is like this call to heroism right now, and like literally like this battle of good and evil that is going on, and people are going to be playing their roles as that plays out, and a lot of people are going to be called to play and to fill one of those archetypal roles moving forward. But a lot of people are also going to get whipped up and caught up in the frenzy of what's going on and not being able to contain the energy within them, or being caught in this demented viewpoint and perspective and having all of this anger that they're just wanting to project and unleash. And they're going to be like joining the frenzy for unnatural reasons, or for like just because they want to be involved. Okay. And doing that is probably, again, like, if it's on impulse, if it's not something that's been like coming into fruition for a long time, if it's like a reckless action or behavior, there's probably going to be some mistakes and consequences going on in this energy that we really got to deal with. Okay, so we need to know if we are a part of that, because that's literally in alignment with the way our destiny is calling us right now. Or if we're just wanting to get ourselves involved in the fight because we're looking for a fight, because we've got this energy going on within us and we don't know how to apply it or use it practically in our lives. That is going to be a struggle that people are dealing with as well. And they're going to be you know, doing a lot of stuff that has some unfortunate outcomes as a result, okay? There are heroic battles going on, but we got to be sure that that's what we're fighting before we step up to fight, that we are truly fighting the good fight. And if it's your story, you will know it's your story. But if it's not, don't get involved. I just don't think it's a good idea, and that's pretty much what I'm gonna say about that. Other than that, I don't really have that much more to say. It's just literally this tinderbox out there. We need to be aware of that. There's a very financial element of this as well. There's also an element of this, as I said in my last video, that is like walling things off, that could be blocking communication, that could be blocking the flow of information somehow. And we are building energetically into a full moon on Monday. So it's not like the energy of Friday and Saturday where we've got all this tension stuff is going to find its release. Like, we're literally continuing to build, and then we've got a Uranus square. Like, there are tower moments coming, but again, like, only in terms of the things that need to reach a breaking point somehow. We also could be at a turning point or a point of major breakthroughs. This doesn't all have to be bad. I don't want people to be out there like running around in these states of fear. Remember, like I said, a lot of the fears presenting right now are going to be predominantly illusions, and illusions of control, and illusions of inadequacy, and illusions of fear that we're actually in the process of conquering and breaking down right now, although it may not seem that way as we're like in these final battles and the opposing threat theme seems so strong and dominating as it's on its way out. Okay, but I do feel like it is extreme red flag energy. As I've said, this is some of the most tension that there really can be, and blockages going on. The Sabian symbol, in the context of the positioning of Jupiter and Mars, they are coming into their alignment in a square to Saturn at 17 degrees of Gemini, which will be the Sabian symbol of 18 Gemini. We will read, because we round up when we're reading the Sabians. We don't read the outgoing wave of energy, we read the incoming wave of energy. That Sabian symbol is of 18 Gemini, where they are going to be an exact square to Saturn, is two Chinese men talking Chinese in a Western crowd. So there's the communication issues right there. There's the lack of understanding. There's the lack of the lost in translation, literally, and the lack of ability to come to some type of meeting of the minds. Like, there is the obstruction and the challenge and the blockage. And it could also be bringing up themes of like not being understood, like not being able to get a message across that is some type of catalyst for action somehow. Also, two things that cannot relate to each other, that cannot get on the same page, that cannot understand each other for some reason, fueling maybe misunderstandings or contention or conflicts or fights. So real interesting about that. This could also honestly be bringing up clashes between countries, like Eastern and Western countries. We could literally see like on a world stage and stuff with that Sabian symbol at play. But it's definitely talking about a communication breakdown and like two things happening in the same place that like can't get on the same page. Okay, so very interesting placement where the Sabian symbol of the activation itself is occurring, where Jupiter and Mars are coming together, and then also Saturn in the square 18 Pisces. That Sabian symbol is in a huge, or in a gigantic tent. A famous revivalist conducts his meeting with a spectacular performance, which is also about like getting people whipped up and like instilling some belief. It can be some type of, on one hand, I've been saying this energy is a breakthrough into some type of spiritual revival or great awakening that is going to be going on, but there's also a really strong aptitude and ability right now to control the mind and the perception and the thoughts and what we're doing as a result through some type of show or performance or persuasive play going on. So just something to keep in mind. Again, we don't want to allow ourselves to be catalyzed into action through other people's like persuasion in this energy. Okay. Another thing Things to do with knives, things to do with blades, things to do with fire, with Mars being amplified by Jupiter right now. Also acts of sudden rage, passion, violence, and destruction. Be very careful with sharp, hot, explosive things. Electricity could come into this too with the Uranian square that is coming in. Especially, you guys, also if you do have planets at mid degrees of mutable signs, you guys are really in the most extreme line of fire. Gemini, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Virgo. Mid degrees, I would say between 10 and 20 degrees. You guys are the epicenter of this energy. So if you've got planets there, you might be feeling this and experiencing it the most. And lastly, I do again want to emphasize the potential that people are just going to be going crazy and completely losing it. Realize many people are quite literally not going to be, as I said this earlier, not going to be in their right mind. Jupiter in Gemini with Mars there. This is our individual, our personal, like our self. Mars is self, our right. Jupiter is right, okay? Our right mind. Mercury with the square to Saturn, literally the right mind. Mars and Jupiter and Gemini being blocked, interfered with at a 90-degree angle with, controlled by Saturn in the sign of Pisces, feeding us all types of illusions and delusions and fantasies that seem and appear as though they are real. Many people are not going to be able to cope. Many people are not going to be able to differentiate. Many people are just not going to be able to understand or wrap their head around it. Again, this lost in translation, can't get from A to B, can't get a message across. The Chinese men talking Chinese in the Western crowd, like there is just not a clear flow of comprehension that could be going on. So we want to harden our mind in this and not let in too much of this noise, too much of this chaos. As I said, Mercury's retrograde right now, and Mercury's actually going to be in a conjunction to the sun and in opposition to the moon for the full moon coming up here. It is best to, if we're going to manifest this energy, to cut ourselves off or to wall ourselves off or to isolate ourselves, the Saturn square, from all of the chaos and all of the action and all of the noise, the Mars, Jupiter, Gemini energy, and that's happening externally, right? And just like focus on laying our bricks, brick by brick by brick, doing our lessons slowly but surely, building ourselves into a masterpiece that cannot be messed with and can't be blown over by these big winds that are gusting through, a masterpiece of our own creation. While everything else might be falling to pieces around us, okay? Again, unless you are personally being called to the battlefield of life right now. Do not attach to outcomes of things. Do not judge your own performance based on expecting some type of external validation. You're probably not going to get it, but do give yourself credit for the small victories and the small wins that you do get right now. Be proud of your efforts to work hard and do the right thing, even if no one sees or notices. God, Great Spirit, universe notices, and our efforts are going to be rewarded moving down the road, guaranteed. So we need to maintain the faith and the vision. And I guess that's pretty much what I've got to say. Just keep going. It's interesting on Friday as we kick off the weekend. We have the position of the sun at 25 degrees of Leo. You guys, that Sabian symbol is a large camel crossing a vast and forbidding desert. It may feel like that out there, okay? Especially with like the lack of water and like emotional compassion stuff, could be quite a cold, like prickly environment out there, but we need to just keep going. Like we're gonna make it, we're gonna endure. And then I also think it's kind of interesting, the position of Venus right now as we move towards this weekend, 15 degrees of Virgo, taking her position. Venus in Virgo is going to be basically she is going to be exactly opposite Saturn and exactly square Jupiter on Monday when we have our full moon that's an exact square to Uranus come through. There could be some financial turbulence coming up, you guys, moving from this full moon coming up, moving through September and into October. I don't know that we have seen the financial turbulence that is coming yet, even though we may feel like we have. I don't know that we have. But anyways, the position of Venus at 15 Virgo on Friday, a fine lace ornamental handkerchief, which I also feel like is quite descriptive right now because things are definitely delicate. Okay, especially again, maybe in relationships or financial matters as we do move towards this full moon that's coming up on Monday. So, woo, that's what I'm going to say, you guys. That's all I have to say. I hope I got those words out. Mercury's retrograde right now, and I hope that that all came out the way that I think it did. Anyways, we're going to get a synchronicity card now. One more piece of guidance or advice. God, Spirit, Universe. Oh, there we got, hold on. We got the no card coming out. So if there's something that you are deliberating or wondering in this moment right now, the answer to that might be no. And I'm going to continue to shuffle until we get one more message card. What do we need to know? I actually have my, the deck of my cards is backwards right now. I need to turn it around. Okay. What do we need to know? What should we keep in mind? Rest, relax, and believe, you guys. Again, you know, removing ourselves from the heat and the fire right now, and really just like maintaining the vision, maintaining the faith, and, you know, step by step, slow, gradual process. That is how we win. That is how we win real prizes in the energy right now. Rest, relax, and believe. He feedeth among the lilies until the day breaks and the shadows flee away. Song of Solomon 2:16 through 17. Take refuge among the lilies of God in heaven and dwell upon the concepts of joy, harmony, peace, beauty, and divine law and order. All your plans, journeys, and undertakings will prosper. Continue in this abiding trust and faith in God until the day breaks and the shadows flee away. We may be navigating the shadows right now, you guys, as we move through this period of time, but that is all it is a period of time. The day will break, the shadows will flee away, and things are going to look a lot better, I think, on the other side than we may feel like they do as we're moving through this. So that is our guidance for right now. Just maintain the faith and everything is going to be okay. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did like it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends if you also think that they might benefit from narrating the shift of the ages with us, and leave me comments, you guys. I'm so truly grateful for your presence here. I really appreciate knowing what's going on with you. If you're having experiences that line up with what I'm talking about in these videos, please let me know in my comment section below. That's very, very valuable information to me. If you want to know, you know, what's on this whiteboard, see the full thing, I take a picture that I have linked in my description box below. That's where you will find that. It's in a Facebook group, so you click the link and it will take you to the group where you can see the picture. And come back with me, you guys. Our next video out, of course, is going to be for Monday, and that is going to be the full moon, which I've already alluded to quite a bit in this video, and we're going to get really into it and talk about all of the ways and all of the things and all of the ongoings and purposes and meanings and ways to cope that might be coming at us with the full moon. So I'll be here to talk about it. You should be here too. You don't want to miss it. Wishing everybody a beautiful weekend out there, and until next time, bye guys.